Dead Art Studios. Back tonight working on a bigger painting, and this one is, I'm calling the family painting, because we've got these 4 figures in sort of abstracted style, red and black and orange, and we've got 2 larger ones, 2 smaller ones, so parents and children, and they're in a sort of blue and yellow theme. And I'm going to work a little bit more on the sort of background of the painting, and when I finish it we're going to finish the red figures, but that won't be today. We'll just be chipping away slowly at the background. Some of the tools I've been using finger painting, I've been obviously using brush, I've been using knife blades for scratching and impressions, and also like the protective hoods that you can get on your paintbrushes. I've been using those for making little print marks as well. So I think what I'm going to do is down here, this bit looks a little bit dark and I don't know, undefined, so I'm going to do a little bit of finger painting with yellow first, just to try and make that a little bit nicer. And I'm using my Artist Acrylics today. I've got Golden Artist Acrylic, and this one's Primer Yellow. And I just use little yogurt pot lids, put a little bit on, and then I save these up as I use them, and then I rinse them down and recycle them, but it saves having to do too much intense cleanup. Right, so just going with my little finger, littler paint as possible, and then just going where I think it looks a bit too undefined, a bit too sort of messy, and start trying to build it up slowly. And if I get on the red, I'm not too worried, because I'm going to finish that off at some point and detail it more, so you know, I don't need to worry too much about that, but obviously don't want to go crazy and cover it everywhere either. So I have got some of the background paint, especially where I've been doing the scratching up here onto the red figures, so I'm pretty sure that that's how they're gonna generally end up looking anyway, so we'll not change those too much. A bit up here, and we're just going to dab away, and I guess this is supposed to be a kind of meadowy type scene in the foreground, so this might be a floral look, but I don't really want anything to be too pinpointed as being something. I want the person looking at the painting to be able to interpret that a little bit for themselves, but also give an idea as to what's going on. Okay, so what normally ends up happening is I normally end up putting more paint onto the yogurt lid than I want to use, but see how we go. And then what I might do is mix another colour in just to change the shade slightly, so that we don't waste these extremely expensive paints, and we can make the most out of them. Down here there's a sort of really light blue bit from, it's not had a lot of detail put into it from like sort of an older layer, so I have sort of gone on to the person there, so I'm gonna just wipe it off a little bit. This bit here still looks a bit messy, but anyway, while we're up here, I've got some of this paint. We'll go up here to where I've got some yellow as well. I've got quite a defined line there where I've used this paint sleeve and gone along there, but that's sort of too precise. Now the question is, if I start doing it with my fingers, is it going to make it too imprecise. I think if I go slightly up high, then it's going to sort of blend it in softer towards that sort of background, which has got a sort of night sky, foresty sort of feel to it. And I'll just keep doing that. So I'll look down here, and then also just in here as well, where in the middle, well, this is sort of like a, I don't know, imagine like a maize field or a reed bed or something, you know, some high and barrier creating plants that kind of make you feel a little bit enclosed and maybe trapped, or maybe sort of warm and snug. When this painting started, it's been through a lot of iterations, and I've done lots of different things to it, and it wasn't even this when I started. It's kind of just appeared, and earlier on it was more haunting and looked scary, and the guy that's pointing down here, it was almost like, oh, something's in the distance, we need to watch out. But now it seems to be more like everyone's hanging out happy, and the guy's kind of like, or the gal, I suppose I'm putting myself into that role there, and is saying, what's going off over there, let's check that out, or something's happening. But you know, maybe somebody else sees it and they do get a spookier kind of feel to it. Right, anywhere that seems too heavy in one colour, I've been trying to break it up. I don't know, I think generally speaking it is quite close to being finished, but I think this bit for me needs more. This up here is closer to being finished than down here, I think, but this bottom bit is definitely sort of causing more trouble. And I think this down here where it's sort of very bluey black, I might actually use some more of this yellow and use the knife blade and then do some verticals. Sort of, this has got a bit too much of a barrier between the darks and the lights, so let's do that. So because I'm doing a razor blade kind of thing, I've done a long thin bit of paint just so I can sit my paint in it. There we go. That's it. Get those in, and you know, I might use some, that's not gone too well. And if I do sort of make an error, something that I don't really like, then on this painting I've just been scratching it down to sort of make it look a bit more backgroundy and less like a feature in the front. Now, is that too much? Maybe. I think it is. Let's get a little kick, and now it definitely is. So I'll scratch down and break it up a bit. Here. And I guess I've been doing this painting, it's more than a month now, but I haven't spent ultra long amounts of time on it per sitting. I just do a little bit and then I come back to it, and for me that's working out alright for this one. It's on plywood. I'm not the biggest fan of canvas. It's not that I don't like canvas, just that I seem to like enjoy painting more on board. And it started off with some modelling medium on it to give it sort of like a sort of more 3D impasto, if you like, character. And then I've just been sort of finger painting and building the layers up ever since. And I am quite happy with the idea and the motifs, I suppose, behind this painting. So I am going to stick with it unless I get crazy and destroy it, which it often happens. But this one I feel like I'm going to stick with, and the ones that make it, the ones that make it and the ones that don't, normally just become something else, you know. I've thrown a couple straight in the bin. Sometimes I think you just need to, but a lot of the times they just evolve, and this is one of them that has evolved. Okay, so give that a wipe. Give that a wipe, and then I've used this one, and then I can just rinse that off and scrape it later and recycle it, because that's where it would have been going anyway. And then I've got loads saved up and just move on to the next colour. It saves too much messing about. I'm painting late at night, people are asleep. You don't want to be in the sink constantly, making too much racket. Alright, so I've got some handsy yellow, but I'm going to just give the yellows a miss, but because I've just done one. But I might leave it out just in case. Just in case I do want to use it. So I've got ultramarine blue. I think I might use a bit of primary cyan down here and do the same kind of technique. And because that paint will still be a little bit wet, hopefully it might just cross over and blend in a little bit and create some greens as well, and a bit more interesting variation in the colour, because I'm not always mixing paints a lot. It's not my favourite thing to do, so I just don't really do it, but on the board I will let my colours mix together, and you just have to be aware of what could mix together so that you don't make a big horrible mess. Alright, so let's see how this goes. And progress is slow on painting, and I fill my time lapses so that you can see the overall progress, but I want to make videos where I'm just sat painting so that you can see what's involved in what I'm doing, and also, you know, maybe it's relaxing and just a time to wind down. It is for me, maybe it is for you too. And, you know, if you fell asleep watching this, I'd be happy. I know it's not high adrenaline stuff. Sometimes things, I'm running around like crazy and taking it out into the garage and having a go with power tools on it and all sorts, sanding, and, you know, I tend to do that more in the daytime when I'm painting. Nighttime tends to be a bit more chill. So, you know, let me know if you paint, drop a comment, let me know just whatever's going on, you know. If you've got something to say, please do. That's just a bit too... I saw someone talk once about who does commercial painting and how they hated it when you get little sort of bogeys of paint on the canvas, and that it's not very sort of professional looking. I think I sort of agree, so if I get that, I will try and scratch or scrape it off and go over it again. Alright, there, down here's a bit, so let's turn the turn it 90 degrees and just scrape a bit as well. And you know, I do the work and then I come and have a look in the morning. You stand a long way away and then you get more of an idea of how much success you've had. If you're, or for me, if I'm trying to assess how successful it's been now, I can get very focused on like one little thing that you'll not even notice in the morning and that nobody else would ever see, and then that can start to stress me out and then I'll just not be happy with the whole thing. So it's a matter of doing it, putting it away to dry, and then checking again in the morning and seeing what you think. Right, this little line here along the top, I just want it to be a little bit more, it's just this little bit that's come out there, and I just want to try and cover that with what little bit of paint I've got here, and just straighten it up a bit. Yeah, I think that's not bad. Okay, good. Right, now this area around here on the bottom bits where it's darker, that's a bit messy too. So I think I'm gonna add some green gold to that. Let's have a look. Oh, really full, my green gold, and I really like it. Just don't seem to get through much of it. I pile through yellow and then blue and also magenta for some reason. Okay. Try and get the lids back on properly. Right. Same sort of technique, but over here. Okay. And this is a colour is particularly interesting. When you put it on just like this, it's kind of muddy or olivey and really earthy. But then if you pull it thin, especially on paper, it's got this really iridescent sort of gold look to it. And when you're mixing it with other colours, it can really bang out some good brightness. So it's definitely a nice colour to play with. Do some scratching. Okay, that's nice. So the festive season's coming to an end now, and I'm looking forward to the new year. I like the idea of the new year and everything that's ahead, and I enjoy the festive period, but also it's like it's the end, and you know, sometimes you're a bit like, whew, that was been a lot, and you're just ready to go again. Okay. So the areas I really want to pay attention to is just where it starts to mix into where the figures are, because if I don't get those in good and get the detail in there, then it's not going to look like I've paid a lot of attention, because you're going to have these rougher areas right round the main sort of characters of the painting, but the problem is they're the hardest and most awkward bits to do, so you tend to just ignore them, especially if you're painting kind of intuitively. So I've just got to make sure that I'm paying attention to those bits. Like under this armpit here, just want to be bringing some colour into that as well, rather than it just being ill-defined blob of black around here as well on the outer arm. They are going to have these thick black shadow lines on them, so it gives some indication of where the light's coming in. You know, it's a stylistic kind of thing, so that is going to be there. But I do want to come close up to where some of the sort of darker bits of this background area is kind of mixing in with that, and make sure that I've sort of put some detail in. A bit up here, maybe further up as well, give some hints. Further up. See up there, that's a bit messy. Yeah, that scratching over here is not particularly clean looking either. Let's get some more structure into that. Well, that green there is too heavy. Scratch it out a bit. And just look there. That's quite nice. Now, what about up here? Now, I don't want to really interfere with the orangey yellow line here, so I'm going to sort of hold it half off and do it like that. Try and imply what small amount of dexterity I actually have, to get this bit looking a bit more done. That was a bit heavy. It's a bit messy there, isn't it? Alright. And one of the questions I'm starting to ask myself now is, as I'm trying to get towards this being finished, is am I going to come in with the actual paintbrush and start doing little sort of highlights around the individual sort of like finger marks and features? Am I going to finesse them, or do I just want them to be sort of hints in the background? If I over finesse it, then it's all gonna, to the eye, you're not gonna have any depth to it, so something to be aware of. But on the other hand, I don't want it to just look like I've thrown a lot of paint on. It might look like that, but to me, I know that I've sat here for a long time and worked on it. Okay, that's a bit dark there, that's alright. And that ultramarine does need a bit of breaking up in places. Yeah, I quite like that. Let's have a look at that bit there as well. I'll just scratch that. Okay, and that bit there, look. Down here as well. I sort of just drifted off, didn't I, and didn't get in here. This bit is very underpainted compared to the rest, so I'm going to come in here and just get the smaller blade, come in here, start hinting at it, try not to get my hands on what I've already painted. Yeah, that's okay. Some quite heavy scratching as well can bring some of the lower layers out, make it more complicated and interesting. Right, so that bit looks alright. Now let's do the actual bit that I was supposed to do instead of where I got distracted. Okay, so I don't mind if I get paint onto the character. I'm going to wipe that off in a second. Especially on this lower bit. And let's scratch up. Looking a bit better. Now let's see what happens if I scratch with it heavy enough. Okay, that's a bit too white under there, so let's just fill that in. Quite like that actually. Thin. A bit green on there, maybe up here as well. That's nice. Here too. And down there. Do some scratching. So let's see how long, half an hour. I've got some little whites there coming. Don't mind that so much. They're really fine and a bit higher up towards the furthest part of the background of the painting. Okay, down here a bit. Okay, so I think I'm going to do one more thing and just leave it here for today. And I think that one more thing is going to be some oranges just coming down with a slide of the blade just down from the top. And I might start with a bit of the handsy yellow just to get in a sort of background to that, and then finish with a bit of orange on top. So that's more than enough of that. Let's have a look. And again, I need to get close into the head. Probably bring some actually onto the person or the figure, shall we say. And then when I wipe away, I just want to make sure that I'm not changing the direction of the paint above. There we go. I'm going to leave that. And we can go red over that at some other time. Okay, it's quite nice. think down, what happens if I just, yeah, that's not a terrible idea either. Okay. So I'm going to finish off with a little bit of orange. Cadmium orange. And then that will be where I leave us for tonight. So, don't want too much on here and to just absolutely drape it in paint. And I am going to do some scratching as well. Bring it down there. Under the arm again, it's looking a bit drab. That was too much. I'll scrape that in a second. Okay, so that's where I'm going to say goodbye for today. I'm going to do a little bit more scratching and work, and I'll hold it to the camera at the end so you can see what we've done tonight, and I'll see you next time.